Good morning, you guys, and welcome back to the podcast. I have a very exciting podcast for you today because I have been collecting what I call engineering lessons for everyday life for the last several months to put this in a podcast for you. And so I'm personally excited to run through these and share with you everything I've learned since I've been a full-time engineer since 2023. And so maybe you are an intern who just attended one of my talks and you looked me up and you found me online, or we have worked together. But also, this podcast isn't just for the engineers out there. It's really for anybody who wants to apply the mindsets and the lessons you learn from engineering to your everyday life. And so number one, we always start out with the logic and the mindsets. And the number one thing engineering teaches you is how to solve problems. And it gives you the confidence in yourself of being able to solve complex problems. And that's transferable to life because you say, I don't know how I'm going to figure out XYZ, but I know that I will figure it out. An engineering school teaches you to use this systematic approach. So you start off with the problem definition. So let's take the example, I get headaches quite a bit. So let's say my problem in life is a headache, and that's a complex problem. You start off with the problem definition. Who's involved? Second, you identify the variables that you can identify. Hydration levels, physical activity, sleep, stress. Then you break it down and you see, okay, if I change this variable, how does that influence my headaches? If I sleep more, do my headaches reduce? If I don't drink water, do my headaches increase? And you can observe. And so another thing I always say is if you can measure it, you can manage it. So that's another thing. If you can measure things, if you can document things, if you can track things over time, see trends, and approach it in a systematic way, then you actually have the knowledge to be able to make an informed decision. That's why with fitness, I have things that I track on a weekly cadence. I also have more long-term metrics that I track on a 6-month basis, but it's all about giving yourself all of the knowledge. So that's the very first step, is collect all the data collection. And so you can apply this even to other things, like figuring out car insurance and other life admin things that you don't know how to initially do. But what engineering teaches you is, okay, I don't know how I'm going to figure out what car insurance I need, but I know that I will figure it out. And I'd say that confidence in yourself of being able to solve complex problems is the number one thing that I've gotten from both engineering school and then working as an engineer, because we are doing the math that proves that bolts are going to stay together through a space launch. Like that's a little bit of a different level than figuring out your car insurance, right? But the idea is the same, is that you find all the little knobs that you can turn. What are all the variables here? And then how can I influence each one to solve the problem at hand? And it also gives you confidence that if you haven't solved something, let's say it can even apply to, mental issues. If there's a mental issue that you haven't been able to solve for yourself, you can, that hope and that confidence that you will be able to solve it one day, that can go a long way. That's gone a long way in my life. And then not only life admin things or engineering problems, but also other domains such as medicine. If you can learn how to learn, you can learn about any subject you're interested in. Maybe that's physics. Maybe that's learning to play the cello. You have this mindset of being able to learn and being able to break down complex problems. Okay, number 2. People in engineering want 2 things: to know how much you've done and when you'll be done. So the first, how much you've done. This means to show your progress in a quantitative way. And practically, this means turning your work done into a percentage done. And that's how the people tracking your work can understand it. And this doesn't have to be a super elaborate way of determining an exact percentage done, but people need to know a magnitude. And the idea of magnitudes in general are huge in engineering. We have this precise side of things, these precise numbers that we need. And then we also have this side where we just need to understand the rough idea of what's going on, get this sense of what's going on. It's like in daily life, when you have that gut feeling, that's the same thing as just a general order of magnitude. And so in this case, you need to turn your progress into a percent done, and your manager and the people who track your work beyond your manager, who track the overall work of the team, will really like that, because it's a business metric. They need to understand if they're on track to meet their deliverables in the time that they have communicated to the customer. And so the second with this is show that percentage increasing over time. So to show progress and practically how you do that is by that percentage increasing over time. And it's this balance, right, where it has to be a feasible enough product to show and get feedback on, but it does not have to be exactly perfect. And it's this dance, because you don't want to show a bare PowerPoint with no actual useful information to anybody, but you don't want to wait until the last minute to show what you've done, because maybe you need to get a course correction along the way, or you need to make adjustments. And so we always get reviewed, like we peer review everything. So it's better to get those adjustments early and often. So show your work sooner rather than later. But also, we can't waste people's times. So come to those discussions with an idea. If you have a problem, make sure you take some time on the forefront to dig in, to really understand the problem. And actually, the best thing you can do is come with a solution, or come with an idea for a solution, or just some ideas. That's the next step. The first step is coming to somebody with a problem, and then the next step is coming to them with ideas for a solution. And then the next step is actually coming to them with a problem and then already having the solution solved. You're not always going to have that step 3, but what you can do is do your research, bring ideas, and in that effort is going to go a long way, because people are going to understand, oh, Anya's not just bringing me a problem, she's actually thought about it, and it's worth my time to sit down and talk about this, because she's done the mental work ahead of time and not just expecting me to do everything. And number 2 with this one, when you'll be done. Now, this is not straightforward, because oftentimes you don't know on the onset how long it's going to take you to figure out this problem. And especially if this is a completely new task for you, you don't have a sense. Once you start working in a domain, you can kind of understand, okay, a stress report is going to take me this long. A bolted joint analysis is probably going to take me this long. At the beginning, I totally understand that you might not have this sense for how long things are going to take, but you need to do your best with this, because again, people need to know when you'll be done to know if they're going to meet the dates that they've communicated to the customer. And so the best method that I have found is to, once I've gotten started on the task, is to get an overall picture of what I need to do, get a roadmap here, and break the task up. And then I see how long it takes me to do one part, and then I multiply that out to how many tasks that I have. So let's say it takes me 1 day to do 2 analyses. I have 80 analyses, so it's going to take me about 40 days. And then in work months, that's going to take me about 2 months. Then you give yourself margin to account for unexpected sub problems that you encounter along the way of solving this bigger problem. So I multiply it by 1.25. That puts us at 2 months and a third. And so I would communicate that it's going to take me 2.5 months. And then the key here is you set checkpoints for yourself. So 2.5 months is quite a bit of time. And so you need to set little goals for yourself, such as in 2 weeks, I'm going to have 10 analyses done. In a month, I'm going to put together a presentation of all the analyses I've done so far and do a peer review with my team. And you don't even have to communicate that to anybody formally, but but actually taking that half an hour to really just sit down and think through that plan can actually save you a lot of time in the end, so that you're not scrambling at the end. Like, make the PowerPoints as you go. My deliverables in my work are always a PowerPoint, or pretty much always a PowerPoint or a document that encapsulates the work that we've done. And so make those PowerPoints along the way so that you're not scrambling at the 11th hour to get everything in. This will come with time. Send those PowerPoints to other engineers who have been there longer for review, so that when you do show it to the lead engineers, that they're not correcting little things like, oh, you didn't show the material properties or the factors of safety, all those little things that you might not know at the outset of starting a job, but that your other team members know. So get their feedback. And other engineers, I would love to know how you make these time estimates of when you are given a task, how you estimate when you're going to be done. And then you ask Anya, okay, what if I get to somewhere and I don't know what the next thing to do is, or I'm confused? So the nice idea, make an assumption. You don't need to have all of the information. Use what you have and fill in what you don't. Instead of always asking questions, make an assumption, simplify where you can, work with what you've got, move forward, and revise as necessary. You can also keep a list of questions off to the side, but don't I used to just let those questions stop my work. And I used to just always ask, and I learned, make an educated assumption, do your research, make an assumption, say, I'm going to use this number here, I'm going to use this material property here. Keep track of those to go down and nail down, but don't let all of those little things impede you from actually getting 80% of the task done. And then you'll have a list of 20%, like the 20% of things that you need to go and solidify, but you'll be bringing a much better product to whoever you're doing this work to than constantly, like every time you get 10% done, asking them a question. Okay, the next is focus on deliverables. People want results. You can do all the good analyses, but you need to close the communication loop from the problem reception to problem resolution. And I have a saying in my head where I say that I want to provide a deliverable a day. Now, these deliverables can vary in magnitude from just sending an email that answers somebody's question to having a formal review with the customer. But I focus on closing the loop on at least one problem every single day. Now, at least. Some days you're going to solve a lot more problems than that, but sometimes you have bigger problems, and sometimes one day you get one big problem solved, and that's a win. Because these sorts of engineering jobs, guys, are like an ultra marathon, because it's like 50,000 steps that end up in a 50-mile race. And so every single deliverable, even if it's like a small step that you take in an ultra marathon, in a year, you're like, hey, cool, I really contributed to something. And how you can practically do this is document your results as you go. So I always have a working document where I call it, like, whatever my task is, working PPT. And I just put everything in there that's relevant to the problem, so that one day in the future, when I need to refer back to that, I have all the information in one place. I put where the file locations are stored. I put links to the spreadsheets that I use, sources for my math, sources for technical standards that I use, right? And then I have a PowerPoint where this is, my results PowerPoint. So it's very results driven, and you lead with the conclusion and then get into the details. State the conclusion. Even if it's so obvious, you have to understand that you are in the weeds of this problem. Of course, the conclusion is easy for you to understand, and it would be for any other engineer on your time who took the time to understand. And there's the key, the time that it takes. Save people the time. They will enjoy reading your results PowerPoints a lot more if you make your conclusions obvious. And practically, this means putting a large box on your PowerPoint slide with the number or the result or the conclusion or the statement, and coloring that box either red, yellow, or green, depending on if it's bad, medium, or good. Like, how much do we have to pay attention to this? If it's green, it's good. I'm not going to pay attention to it much anymore. If it's yellow, I need more analyses. And then if it's red, okay, something's bad. There's a problem. Use red. I know this is colors. This sounds childish and stupid, but so is high school. Comment down below if you know what that quote's from. So it sounds childish, but it saves people time if they can look and quickly understand in big, bold, everything's fine, or big, bold, everything's not fine. We need to look into this more. Make it easy for the eyes to follow your PowerPoints. Use arrows. Even if it seems obvious to you, trust me, when you look back on this in a month, you're going to be happy that you took the time to actually have a good flow in your PowerPoints and in your documents. Explicitly write out summaries, take screenshots of drawings and standards and things, and put that all in one place, like a working PowerPoint, so that you can always refer to it in the future. And when you do present your results, the next tip is to remember we're all in the same team. And this is what helped me to not be so nervous during reviews. Even if we are talking to the customer and not just internally, we are on the same team, which is Team Space. So be prepared. Anticipate the questions that you can, and know at the same time people want to help you. You're not going to sink out here on your own. Everybody was a beginning engineer at one point. Lastly, let's wrap this up with what I'm calling lifestyle. Number one, don't call out specific individuals, call out functions. So let's say there's somebody on the materials team who's not getting you properties that you need. I really recommend do not say this one person is not giving me results. I would say I'm still awaiting results from the materials and processing team. Especially in an email, like don't call out specific individuals, call out functions. I just found this to be good etiquette at my job. I'd be curious what other jobs are like. I think this contributes to a team effort because it is a team effort. It's not just one person, and it's not like they're not responding to you because they don't want to respond to you. They're not responding to you because they have a lot of other things going on, and sometimes the squeakiest wheel is the one that gets the oil. So keep following up. That's a lesson for life too, is this, which is I'm encountering with some EMT stuff I'm going through. Like, I want to shadow this physician at the hospital, and he's so busy, right? I mean, he's an attending doctor. He has a million things going on, and he can't just attend to me wanting to do this shadow with him. But I want to do this 30-day shadow with him. And so I've emailed him several times. And Alex Hormozy has this thing where it's like, if you need to get into the house, how many ways are you going to try to get in? Okay, like one step is you just knock on the door, nobody answers. Some people leave the house. Then some people knock on the door again. Okay, no answer, they leave the house. Next is they jiggle the doorknob. Okay, it's locked, they don't go in. Then it's like, okay, they go to the window. They try to see if it's open. Then they go to the back door. Then they climb on the roof and they try to get like it's about how many ways are you going to try to get in. So with life, if you need an answer from somebody, how many ways are you going to try to get it until something stops you? That's a big thing that I've learned. And so like follow up with people at work and be kind to them and understand, like say, I understand that you're busy. I need this. And it also helps when you tell people why you need it and also what you've already done. So let's keep going back to these material properties. So I will say I'm assuming aluminum 6061. I'm using these material properties for now because the spec is similar. Now, can you please tell me if this is a good assumption or if we should pivot? Like bring some kind of solution, bring some rationale for that solution, and then ask them if they agree with it or if they need to change. Because it's a lot easier for somebody to say, okay, yeah, like I think that's a pretty good estimate, or no, that's not a good estimate. You need to use this instead. But it shows that you did some pre-work ahead of time and you're not just asking them to do absolutely everything for you. And keep following up with them. Sometimes I make a list of things I need to follow up on. Another thing is keep detailed notes and keep old analyses organized. For some reason, ever since the beginning of my job, I was always good at tracking everything and keeping detailed notes, especially all of those final PowerPoints that you've created. Make it so readable that you can refer to them in the future. I refer to a previous program that I worked all the time and the logic and the rationale we use because we forget. We do so much math. We address so many problems over the years and over the months that it's really helpful if you document it in a way that makes sense for you. So I have a folder that's all reference documents and it's split up by the different types of analyses that we do. And I have a OneNote where I keep track of the different programs that I work on. And if I have really key meetings, if we have like a review for one component, I keep all of my notes about that one part in one place so that I can refer to that. And I would say that organization is just huge. Even in my email, I organize all of my emails into literally like what component that conversation is about because we refer to that often. Next is the higher up you go, ask them less questions. I have found it has served me very well that I save only the hardest questions for those senior level engineers because again, their time is valuable. I mean, all of our times are valuable, but it's like the boy who cried wolf. If you just keep asking so many questions, then your questions are not going to have as much potency. So if I have, if I have a question about what's the factor of safety I should be using, there's no way that I'm going to ask this senior engineer that. I'm going to ask somebody who's more of my level to help me figure that out if I can't. I'm going to go to the senior engineers when there's really a complex problem that I don't understand yet. And I apply this to other areas of my life, to where if there's a really respected person, I'm not going to barrage them with like all the life questions that I have. I'm going to take my time and ask them a very specific question. And I often like to phrase it as if I want to understand their life experience. Like, I don't want to make them have to understand my entire life story. I want to understand specifically, how did you address this in your life? And then take those lessons learned and apply it to my life. This can also work if you're in school and asking your professors questions. Professors get so many emails, and they probably get so many like random emails from students who haven't actually thought through the problem. Take the time beforehand, again, like I said, think through the problem and ask them a very pointed question. That's why we have TAs. That's why we have friends. That's why we have those lower level people that we can ask, a million things to, and it's fine, because we all need that. But use the questions that you ask those that next level in whatever domain of life it is. Be very pointed with that, and be very intentional with that. And then finally is an interesting one. Save your apologies for when they matter. I find that a lot of people over apologize, and it actually sets you up in a position to where people actually think you did something wrong, where you might not have actually done anything wrong. If you need to reschedule a meeting, if you had something pop up, or something happened, don't say sorry all the time, because again, it comes down to the potency. Same thing in life. If you were late, if you forgot something, if you kind of did something wrong, but like, save your apology. Like, instead you're going to reframe it. You're going to say, thank you for waiting for me. Thank you for being patient as I go grab this thing. Like, I appreciate your understanding. Like, and reframe the word sorry to more appreciating that they're being patient with you. And even like at work, like, you don't have to apologize for all of those things. Again, it comes down to potency. If you're apologizing for everything, then your apologies really mean nothing. Like, okay, sorry I'm late. Okay, the person doesn't need that you're sorry. They don't need that you're sorry. They need you to not be late. So acknowledge that you're late and be better next time, instead of just being like, sorry I didn't get this to you. Sorry I didn't get this. Like, that's, to me, hearing sorry all the time is just such a waste of time. And it actually, like, sometimes people have apologized to me and I didn't think that they did anything wrong, but because they apologized to me, then I started to think that they did something wrong. So like, you know when you need to apologize. Let's say it is something like very important and you do need to apologize that you're late or that you did miss something. You have that internal gauge in your head. And of course, give your apologies when an apology is due, but don't overdo it, because then it's not really going to mean much. Okay, guys, those are my lessons for now. And as I'm talking and as I work these next couple months, I'm sure that I'm going to come up with several more. There's already more off the top of my head, like talking about how a team works together and team dynamics and along those lines. And so I'll collect them for you over these next couple months, and maybe I'll do a part 2 to this. But in any case, I hope that you're having a wonderful start to your week. Like I said, I am in Connecticut this week with my team, so that's very exciting. And I hope you enjoyed this episode. Please leave any ideas, especially if you work in this field. I would love to know your ideas. Or if you heard this and you don't work in engineering at all and you're like, hey, I think that this could apply to this area of my life, please let me know down below. I would love to read it. I always love reading the comments. So alrighty, that's it. I will surely see you on the next one. Bye.